correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. We've only got one Steve this week, but I do have a guest, so we'll get into that in a minute. But before I introduce our guest, I want to take a minute to tell you about another show here on the D20 Radio Network. That being the Order 66 podcast, which, well, you might guess from the title, and if you haven't heard them, it is a Star Wars role-playing podcast, and it is probably the oldest one out there. They've been going strong since probably sometime in the early 2000s. They did a bunch of work with the Saga Edition and then restarted the feed with the FFG license in 2011, 2012. Your hosts, Chris and Phil, they're Star Wars nuts. Phil has actually worked on a number of books for FFG, and having met both of them, I can tell you they're both great people. It's a great show, and they're currently actually doing a series of episodes where they're building a new Star Wars campaign setting somewhere approximately 100 years, I believe, after The Last Jedi, and they're calling it Fractured Republic. And what I've listened to it so far, it's really, really cool. And, you know, there's back episodes delving deep into all aspects of the FFG Star Wars system, now Edge, obviously. But in any case, if that's your thing, check out the Order 66. There'll be a link in the show notes. And, of course, you know, you can also go to the D20 Radio Network homepage, check the podcast tab. There's a bunch of different great shows you can listen to. So, all that being said, my guest this week is Luka Rejec. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Who is creator of Ultraviolet Grasslands and some other things. He has a couple projects out now. He's got one on Backerkit, and I believe you told me you have a Humble Bundle that is live right now, or Bundle of Holding. Bundle of Holding. I confuse them.
Yes.
I'm just going to start calling it the Humble Bundle of Holding.
Yeah, like when I email with Alan, who runs the Bundle of Holding, this is the second time that I accidentally, like, emailing him back, I misnamed his bundle. It's always embarrassing, but it's the Bundle of Holding, and they're great folks. I really like the Bundle of Holding because it's usually great deals and a chance to look into products and product lines that I often wouldn't get, and then there's a chance for like an affordable price to get the whole thing, get an overview, and learn something new.
Yeah. So you are, well, you're a designer, writer, artist, and well, you told me for a lot of your products you've actually pretty much done the whole thing, so you kind of do all aspects of it. But I mean, where do you want to start? I know Ultraviolet Grasslands is loosely a fantasy game, I guess, but a not
Science fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, it's not your traditional sword and sorcery Dungeons and Dragons.
It goes back a lot more to like if you think about like Heavy Metal magazine and like the sort of 70s fictions that you got, like the French comics, and you had like Mobius and Kazaa and Drouillet and these guys, where it's like swords and lasers and strange mutants out in the far future or the far past.
Okay, almost like a psychedelic fantasy in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's definitely influenced by that vibe. You've got like that vibe with the music from the late 60s and then the 70s influenced it a lot. Like Blue Oyster Cult and that kind of stuff. The heavy metal movie. It's like in Italian they have a term fantascienza, which is basically science fiction, but they call it fantascience, and then I just sort of transliterate that to English. So it's sort of a little bit of a different source, and like there are different elements going into it, so it was kind of a different vibe, and I always enjoyed it. It's a little bit close to like Vance and Dying Earth in some ways. Like that would actually fit into this kind of thing very, very, very well. Except, you know, in my case, I don't like the term Dying Earth because it feels like, well, that's kind of terminal. I want it a little bit more Technicolor, bright colors, more vivid. So like Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind by Miyazaki, right? That one also fits this kind of vibe where it's pretty vibrant, colorful, but it's at the same time a mix of science and technology and fantasy.
Okay, and now again, I told you before, I actually don't own Ultraviolet Grasslands at this point. It's kind of on my list. In fact, I may pick up that bundle of holding because, like you said, it's a good way to get a whole bunch of stuff. Now that only though has the original version in it, correct, of
Yeah.
Ultraviolet?
It has the original and then the second edition, which somebody called the director's cut. And, they're not wrong.
So, but am I mistaken? Doesn't trade have a big factor in your game, or am I confusing you with someone else that I've heard of?
No, this one does. Like the idea of this one was a caravan. Basically, you're running a small trading caravan, and it goes into like the utter west, into the vast unknown. And then as you're going and trying to trade between like different settlements and different factions, you're also discovering these fragments of a long lost or mythic past.
Okay. Well, that fits. I've actually been on a binge watch recently of I don't know if you're familiar with the TV series Expedition Unknown,
No.
but it's this guy. It's on in the U.S. It's in our they call the Travel Channel, but it's this guy who actually he has a degree in archaeology, but he goes visiting all sorts of like legends and archaeological sites, like everything from like went on an expedition or along with an expedition looking for the tomb of Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
There was actually the one I watched tonight looking for the tomb and potentially the body of Alexander the Great. He's done a whole bunch of stuff in, like Mayan and etc., pre-Mayan South America. And it's really cool. Like some of it, delves into, well, this legend and the reality behind it is this, but, and all kinds of neat bits that I think would just add flavor to a game like that. So now I'm definitely going to have to go buy this.
Yeah, no, and I like that kind of vibe. Like I find it interesting because it's also the kind of thing that can sort of when you're playing that kind of game. When I'm the game master, I like to be surprised by the game, so that's why I like random tables. But I also like to co-create the game with the players in a way. So this I'll often have like and I wrote about this, but it's like if one player is playing the elf character, I'm going to turn to them and say, like, what do elves know about this? Or how do elves do these things? Or whatever. Building out the culture in that way so that, like, even I, as the game master, can't know everything about the world because it's going to be kind of surprising. So I'm sort of playing the role of a referee wherever the player says something really outlandish. I would be like, okay, maybe this character thinks so, but come on, that makes no sense. It breaks everything. But lots of times it's, or then I just toss the ball to the other players. How would that fit in? Would that fit in? And then we figure it out. So in this kind of setting, we're like exploring things, finding out new things. It's often really fascinating because all you need to do is put out there something that is kind of a mystery and isn't completely clear and defined, and the inventing of the myths and figuring out the legend behind it is actually part of the game. You're essentially creating the story through play, through talking with other people. So it's not the case that as the game master, you're just like, I am the keeper of secrets and I know these things. And as you open secret doors, you will find out the secrets, right? It's like, yeah, I've got this buried temple that was used for one thing and then another thing. And now there's some squatting monsters there and so on. And like as the players go through it, I don't actually know exactly what they're going to find because it's going to sort of change as they're going through it. So kind of fun.
Well, I too like I've been in games where the GM has taken very much kind of that approach of, hey, what does this space look like? Or whatever. And I find both as a player and having tried it a little bit as a GM that it very much encourages your players, one, to just be involved,
Yeah.
but because they're involved, their buy-in seems so much higher.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
invested.
definitely.
They're like, this is
Yeah.
my thing.
Yeah.
We got to use my thing.
Yeah. It is. It's kind of amazing. So I've had situations where I felt like, oh God, I didn't run that session really well. I fumbled and running that encounter, I was dreadful and I got ruled wrong and I really muddled that and oh God, and that doesn't make sense plot wise. And the players are like, no, that's great. And
Well,
and
you bring up 2 points here that rattle around my head a lot. One, and I'll just ask you this: as a GM, I find a lot of times I look at all the stuff that I don't think I got right, or that
Hmm.
didn't live up to what I expected it to be. And the one thing I try to tell people a lot, I say it on the podcast all the time, and I'll say it if I'm just talking gaming with people, is the thing to remember is as a GM, we're the only one who knew what it was, quote unquote, supposed to be.
Yeah.
The players don't have that comparison image of what happened versus
Hmm.
what, so the players, they got a really good chocolate cupcake. They didn't know it was supposed to be a chocolate ganache, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, yeah,
They liked the cupcake they got. They had a good time,
yeah. Hmm.
and it's hard for me as a GM. I know this is something I struggle with constantly is, you know, comparing what I did to what I thought was supposed to be, and
Yeah, yeah.
doing it this way kind of frees you of that to a point.
Yeah, exactly. Like I get that as well. Like for me, one of the things that's a real struggle if it's a pre-written setting or an adventure is because I get really invested in like this is the lore. These are the facts. This is the proper thing. And then I feel like, ooh, if I deviate, especially if the players also know the setting, I'm just like, I don't remember this. I muddled it up. I'm getting it wrong, right? So that was actually part of what I tried to do with the Ultraviolet Grasslands, and I try to generally do is that I leave it relatively open and create these contradictory facts. So like different factions know different elements, and it's not nailed down what how things are. Like everybody could be wrong, and in that case, just it's just like what happens at the table is the way things go. So in the example you're saying, it's like, okay, so we ended up with a cupcake. Well, going forward, it's a cupcake in this world. That's it.
Right, but I think too, and this is a concept that kinda hit me the other day, is I wonder how often do we just take ourselves too seriously when it comes to role-playing game lore? My wife will
Mm.
forever tease me about, "Why do you need more books to play pretend?" But,
Yeah.
and what you were just saying about the players defining it or defining it as you go through the adventure, and this goes too to, like I was talking about that TV show I've been watching, is how often we find with further discoveries that accepted history didn't get it right.
Yeah.
So what's to say that the accepted lore of the world according to the book is what actually happened?
Oh yeah. But often it's unknowable. Yeah, yeah. But it's like unknowable. So that's the thing that actually about the history. That's actually a funny thing. I was actually thinking about how in some setting books you'll have like the history nailed down, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and I'm like, for our own history, for like on Earth for like 100 years ago, we're not exactly sure what happened or why it happened or what is like who did what. We're not completely sure. And then you go further back, you go like 300, 400, 500 years back, and it's like, okay, we have 5 records of this thing happened in the year 1550, and the records contradict each other. And it's like, okay, great. And then you go further back, and it's like, oh yeah, we're extrapolating based on 2 records that contradict each other, but are both mentioning a thing, and we're extrapolating that it's one thing, and it probably happened in this year, but we can't be sure. And the archaeology, well, it's not conclusive. It's telling us something. And then you've got like the history of the setting going back 8,000 years, and like this is nailed down, and we know what happened. And yeah, I mean,
But it stands to reason that the characters in the setting would have the same flawed recollection knowledge that we
mm,
do in the real world. So if you don't
I
get it
mean, so
right,
long as they're human.
yeah, well, fair enough. But you get my drift, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I get
I
it.
think we as gamers sometimes, and maybe this is just part of, the nerd brain, is that we fixate on this minutia, and the
Mm,
minutia has to be right or it isn't good enough.
yeah, yeah.
And it sounds like kind of your design philosophy is to just kind of go, "Nah, close enough. Let's have fun with it."
Yeah, pretty much. I try to make it like I try to short circuit that part because it's like it's unknown in the history. It's like it's loose. There are contradictory accounts. These guys think this. These guys think that. Somebody might think this, and it sort of short circuits that and puts the point on you're making the lore at your table as you play. That's what's happening, and you're telling a unique story. It's your story. It's the playthrough that you are experiencing. That is also your private personal work of art, basically. your own performance piece. Just you guys, you folks at the table.
Yeah, that kind of leads into something I had mentioned I wanted to talk about. I heard another interview with you on another podcast where you were talking that you view role playing games as a form of folk art, which I thought was
Yeah.
a really interesting take on it. And I can't say I think you're wrong at all, but it really is. And I think I've also said a number of times that I feel like RPGs, and this is one of my big criticisms of Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast, etc., is RPGs by their nature don't fit the corporate model well. And I think you
Mm,
describing them as folk art kind of crystallizes so many of those thoughts in that, because it's kind of like selling someone a cookbook, but it's not even as precise as a cookbook, right? It's not an
yeah.
instructional manual. It's here's some stuff to go imagine with.
Yeah, yeah. It's like selling sheet music for an improv session. It's like you start with that, it's going to go somewhere else, but you're having fun playing music. So you start out playing a certain thing, you're practicing, you get into the groove with the other players, and then you just start riffing off of it, jamming a little bit, changing things around. Or like if it's an improv theater, it's like a book of prompts. Off you go. Where you end up taking it, I don't know. It's really hard to nail down. And I think it sort of comes close to that, like that mixed with telling campfire stories. Because like if you think about campfire stories, a lot of those stories are, you hear them from somewhere else and then you elaborate them and develop them. And somebody tells one story and you hear the person tell the story, you're like, oh, that part was interesting. I'm going to use that for my story. And then you tell your story and use that. Or like Mad Libs, where you're just building off of it. So you start with something and then where it actually ends up. Ideally, it's a surprise for everyone, including the game master. Like if at the end of the session, I've not been at least once surprised by something that happened, and that's where I think the dice actually are really important. So that you have a system where there's a possibility of the dice really surprising you with something completely out there. Like that's how you get the David versus Goliath thing. That's like the natural 20. You roll the critical hit, boom, the guy's down. That's it. Like that was not supposed to happen. The dragon wasn't supposed to go down just like that. What now? And then of course in that situation you can also turn it over to the players. At a certain point you can say like, okay, this is really great. Boom. Small timeout. You guys are going to get the treasure. Everyone's in disarray. What do you think happens? Are the consequences of the dragon's dead? Like the dragon was the apex monster in this area, controlling everything. What do you think happens? What do you think this faction thinks will happen? What do you think those guys will do? And then suddenly you've got like a little bit of a world building moment going on. And as the game master, you have kind of the role of the referee, because you can always say, this is going to be next session. I'm going to use this. These are going to be inputs. I'm not sure what's going to happen. You can make like, I think Blades in the Dark has the concept of like clocks, or you can have like counters for events, and you can like use some of those ideas. Will it play out exactly that? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you had like the sort of strategy session, like what's going to happen. And then for the players, it's like that random event that nobody knew was going to happen. The dragon's dead. Boom. Okay. But then what? Becomes the catalyst for the next session and sessions, or the whole arc.
Well, and it's the fallout from those events and those decisions.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's the really kind of the fun things to explore in role playing is, and I've told some people I like to look at things from around the corner a lot of times as a player, and is the way I say it, is where I'll do something partially because I just want to see what the reaction to my character doing this thing is. And I try to keep it, within the bounds of the character. Obviously, I'm not just going to go randomly do whatever.
Oh yeah.
But I'll
chaotic
try
neutral. I'm 15 years old playing D&D. I'm chaotic neutral.
Yeah, I can do anything, or as we always used to call it, chaotic stupid. Um, but no,
it's only
like
stupid if it fails.
well, this is true, right? But like where you do the thing, and I heard someone once describe it as trying to play the world, not the stats on your character sheet.
Yeah.
And I thought that is just a wonderful way to say it, in that, like, okay, your person's scared, what are they gonna do? Maybe they throw the cooking pot at the dragon and try to run away. Does that make tactical sense in an RPG? No. But at the
Yeah.
same point, what's the dragon? He threw a pot at me. You know, how does the dragon react to having a pot tossed at him?
Yeah,
Because like, does the dragon expect you to come in brandishing a sword and this and that, and you throw a pot at him and run away?
yeah. And that's where like the reaction table comes in. Like that's a beautiful thing for the game master, because all of a sudden it's like, wow, something weird happened. I don't know. I'm gonna roll some dice. Like what the reaction's gonna be, and like I love those moments because it's unknown. Suddenly, boom, the field is wide open. What's happening?
So is that kind of a core of your game design in that way? Then like a lot of kind of reaction tables and kind of random roll tables, or
Yeah, I try to. Yeah, it like so. I think as a designer, whatever you're designing, it's actually really good to design something that you would like to use. So I don't always manage that. Like I get carried away, like thinking about like what I should design or what or the perfectionism takes over and I over design stuff. But generally, I think it's best when I focus on making things that I would like to use. So yeah, I try to use like the random tables and random encounters and random events that carry part of the theme, the vibe, the mood of a place. So like so that you're going to learn about the world, like you were saying, playing the world. You're going to be learning about the world, and like some of the encounters are not balanced, and I love that when you like traveling. So let's say so the UVG is built around point crawling. It's not hex crawling, but same principle. You go to a location, region, and then there's a table of encounters there. And I love it when like one of the encounter tables can be you meet like an angel or something completely overpowered for your characters, or you just meet harmless animals, and then suddenly each of those creates a context, like because conflict isn't implicit in the encounters. Discovering about the world is implicit. Like the conflict comes about if you have goals that the encounter is preventing you from achieving. So the conflict when you meet a dragon, or you run into the Tarrasque, like you just run into the Tarrasque randomly, right? Okay, bit of a D&D reference. And like, what do you do? Well, it's a kaiju, basically. It's Godzilla. Like, it's not coming for you. You're not interesting. You're like, I don't know, you're like 3/3 level schmucks. What's Godzilla going to care? I mean, like, unless you literally go there and like try to poke it really hard in its foot, it doesn't care. So that like if you're making balanced encounters, you'd be like, oh, this is an encounter that the players can't beat. It's like they're not supposed to. It's an encounter where it's like, so what are the costs of this? Well, sit back, wait an hour. It's gone past. Like you've lost some time and got to see a part of the world go by. No big deal. On the other hand, you might have an encounter. You find like a herd of antelope, and again, somebody like, well, that's a terrible encounter. What do you do with it? And it's like, well, you can spend time hunting and replenish your supplies. It's like, or you can just watch the beautiful, glorious creatures of nature, marvel at their beauty, meditate on this. I don't know, maybe try to regain some hit points by meditating on this. Maybe you're nature-loving vegetarian halflings or something. I don't know.
well, no, but like I I like what you're describing though as one. I think a lot of people of my generation will say that grew up on second edition D&D, whatever.
Mm,
We hear random tables and we think it's random monster we're going to fight.
yeah.
And I like the idea of not doing it that way. It's a thing that happened. Here is random event put in front of your players.
Yeah.
How do you react to whatever this is? And I
Mm,
love doing that as a GM, just throwing a situation in front of the players and going, how do you solve it? And I told some people that I try to plan in bullet points and always be ready to put them in a different gun. Because my
hmm.
experience has always been if you put a scenario in front of players and you think there are obvious choice A, B, and C, they
Oh
take
yeah.
choice Q after
Hmm.
discarding 5 plans you never thought about and never even thought of the ones that you thought were obvious.
Yeah.
And so like I love the idea of yeah, here's a thing. What do you
Mm,
do with it? And also that, as you were saying about how you kind of view lore, right? That what do your vegetarian halflings? Maybe they worship antelope. And so this is a spiritual
maybe, yeah.
experience for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're learning something new, and you're creating a new world. Like so that's to go back. That's the sort of the folk art aspect of it, because you're taking this. stuff that happens, stuff that the things that are written. So it's like the text, right? You're taking the text and then you're performing it, and during your performance, you're changing it. You're putting you're changing where you put the emphasis. You're changing what is the actual goal and theme and everything. Everything might end up changing. You might go from like even with a fixed adventure, you've probably had it like happen when players go like, well, the villain actually sounds like the victim here. We're going to switch sides. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, but see, to me, that's the beauty of tabletop role playing, is you're not constrained by the coding of the world. For like to put it in like a computer game perspective, right?
Yeah.
You're not restricted by what the designers and the programmers said was possible. The only restrictions on tabletop is your frickin' imagination.
Yeah, no, for me, it's also, yeah. It is one of the challenges as well for me, like, because, so I've got a kid now, and, she's young. She's going to be 1 year old soon, and it's tiring. And so I find that if I'm tired as the game master, I can really struggle, like connecting the stuff, pulling it together. So it's a bit more challenging to pull off, but yeah.
Yeah, but it I don't know. It just, to me, that's so much of the fun of it is the unexpected and the unplanned and the surprise, like you said. But I don't know, we've kind of gone a little bit of everywhere. Do you want to take a minute to talk about what you have on Backerkit and what you have in this bundle before we get deep in the weeds and then realize we have like 5 minutes and
Yeah. So the humble bundle, not the the bundle of holding. I'm sorry. You started this. You started
I
this.
did. It's my fault.
Yeah. The bundle of holding, the ultraviolet bundle of holding. It's basically everything in the setting of the ultraviolet grasslands, which I call the vast lands. The setting. It's it's the first edition of the ultraviolet grasslands and the second, aka the director's cut, and then there's a couple of smaller things that I've only published as PDFs, so they're also included. So there's like an adventure about finding a magic floating head that shoots massive laser beams. So basically, the players end up with a flying fortress that is a head that shoots laser beams. So that one's inspired by Zardoz. Then there's another one called Zoa of the Vastlands, which is kind of an animal and creature generator, but it also introduces some rules for essentially playing xeno or sort of zoologists in a fantasy world where you're discovering animals, and as you learn about them, you get XP from them. So instead of killing monsters, you study them. And there's a couple of others. There's a small adventure, Let Us In, which is sort of time-limited, creepy Halloween kind of adventure where the players end up besieged in a house and have to get out, which is quite easy. And then there's a few other smaller things. So one of them is like is the lexicon of the vastlands, which is like a little PDF, which is the glossary of the whole thing, and some other small things. I think I might have missed it, but those are the big things. And then on Backerkit, we launched with Exalted Funeral. So they also published, I worked with them to publish the Ultraviolet Grasslands. And now, finally, 5 years later, it's been a ride, 5 years. With the pandemic and everything and the children. And oh my God, it's been a ride. But finally, it's here. So this campaign on Backerkit is called Our Golden Age. This is a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's not really a golden age. It's part of it is an expansion for the Ultraviolet Grasslands. So the Ultraviolet Grasslands focuses on the wilderness beyond the edge of civilization, and then this is like the civilization. So in some ways, you're seeing the world where those characters that go traveling into the unknown come from, and you're also seeing as you get into it, because it's written with quite a heavy dose of satire and irony. You start to realize that okay. It's not actually a golden age. There's some things that are not so great here. Why does the economy of this whole region subsist on having dead people working for the living? And
yeah,
and why? Yeah, so it's built on the remains of long ago when the builders built this world, and you have giant artifacts all over the place that are slowly decaying, but it's going slowly. So it's almost unnoticeable. You could think of it as an undying Earth setting. So that's one of the books. And the other book is the Vastlands Guidebook, which takes the rules. So when I did the first Ultraviolet Grasslands, I already had a system that I'd been using to play, and I decided to include it in the book, but it wasn't a completely finished version. So then I thought, this is going to be relatively simple. I'm going to finish it. This is going to be easy. Well, yeah. Making a system takes a little bit longer than I thought. And then 4 years later, it was finished. So then it went through proofreading, then it went through layouts. That was ready. So that's a PDF that provides like more in-depth character creation, more character options, more items, equipment, stuff for characters. So that's a book that can work with both the Ultraviolet Grasslands and the OGA, sort of tying them together like a rug ties a room together. But it's optional because the settings are written in a very sort of rules loose kind of way, so you can use them with pretty much any sort of D20, OSR, D&D-ish kind of system very easily. Mm-hmm. And with other systems with minimal adjustment. Like most of the time when I describe a monster, I only give an approximate power level and a couple of words to describe it, like it's mood or something. I mean, obviously there's the description. It is this and whatever it is. So it's kind of evocative. But then the stat block is like, it'll say like level 3, angry. That's it.
Well, but it tells you a lot without over describing it, right? Like it's okay, it's about this power level and it's angry, so it's probably aggressive.
Yeah. And but also like, because the thing is, I notice as like I've been running games now for a long time, like 30 years roughly. And when I know a system well, usually all the creatures there's like it's one table that describes it. It's like if we're going sort of old school D&D, it's got the hit dice, it's got the armor class, it's got the hit points, it's got its saving throws if they are different from the default. It's got its attack damage. Its attack bonus is probably standard and fixed and linked to the hit dice. So it's like you've got like 4 columns. That's it. And then you like go look into it and you're thinking to yourself, this monster is a little bit of a glass cannon, so I'm gonna say less armor class, less hit dice, more damage. This one is kind of like frontline bruiser, the ogre. Okay, I'm gonna give it a bunch of hit points. It's just like gonna be soaking damage like a sponge. Maybe I'm gonna say it's got like a weak saving throw. It's like with a bit of practice, you know this stuff, and you kind of know that it's like if the armor class is 15 or 16, it's like that's a 5% difference. It doesn't really, not a big deal. Like if you jump from an armor class of 9 to an armor class of 19, okay, that's a big deal. Like that, you've armored up that one. But like, it's up or down 1 or 2. So like when I run some modules from different systems, I'm just like looking for that exactly, like you said, like the rough power level, and then I know in the system I'm running what's an orc, what's a goblin, what's a troll, and then it's slotting it in.
Well, I question there then, just, and this goes more, I guess, to your personal GM style, right? Do you actually worry a lot about hit points, or do you kind of have an idea of what you want the encounter to accomplish as far as, how long it takes? Like, are you whittling down the hit points?
Do you mean during the session when
Yes.
I'm running it, or when I'm preparing?
I would say a little bit of both, probably more at the table. Like, are you worried about if it has 27 hit points and they've done 26 damage, are you worried about that last one, or if that takes it to 26 points?
Yeah, so at the table, I tend to be pretty strict. Like if I've set it up, the fight, before the fight, I like write down the stats, and then it's like, this is what's happening. And then if it's like at that last one, because what I then do is, if it's like really close, so I have like a little mechanic that I use. If like when the players are attacking, if their attack roll, for example, misses by like 1 point, then I say like, you barely missed. Are you willing to sacrifice something for it? Like expose yourself to danger. So, you make the hit, but the monster, if you don't kill it with this hit, it's getting a bonus against you. Are you up for that? And so it sort of like ratchets up the tension, like right in the fight. So I use it for that. And the same thing with like the hit points. It's like, it's got 1 hit point left. And so the system that I run with has like a depleting resource that I call hero dice. it's basically equal to hit dice, but it's dice that the players have that they can spend to adjust rolls or to recover hit points when they're resting and so on. It's this resource. So as they're going through it, it's kind of important to me that 27 hit point monster, it was 26, it wasn't 27, because that suddenly means like it's not down. It's going to get another round. Are you going to do something extra for this? Because suddenly there's that like tense micro decision. Okay, this monster, like if it hits again, like one of us is going down. We've got a problem. Okay, we spend a limited resource. We invent something. So yeah.
Yeah, now I remember something I heard you mention in the interview that I heard you do. Something about a system called criticality or something, where it was.
Oh yeah, that was in an adventure rant. Yeah,
And
that was a little bit different to run a heist. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but it was something where effectively I forget exactly, but it was something like where you could get a bonus, but you paid for it on the other side, and it gradually builds to where there's this narrow window that you now have to hit with the dice.
Yeah. So that one, what it builds up to is like how to make it's a heist adventure that I'm writing, but I put on pause now. So it's in the form of horribly unorganized notes at the moment. You know, it's like, but like I ran it a couple of times, and it was really some of the best heists that I had, and it was partly because of this mechanic. So the way it works is. The point of the heist is you get into the thing you want to find, right? But the stakes are going up. So as you try to lockpick, if you fail, then there's the option you just invoke criticality, like we're making it. And then there's a special D20 on the table that like ratchets up. It goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, it keeps going up. And that is increasing your chance of rolling a critical fail. And at the same time, it's also applying to the opponents that when they roll, it increases their chance of rolling a critical hit. So you're essentially increasing your risk, but you're getting through the obstacles faster. So like, oh, you failed? Well, you can still get through. It's just like things are going to ratchet up. And then I played that like once the monsters got a critical hit, it like ratcheted down again. So it was basically the tension was going up and the players were getting into this kind of zone where it became more and more risky. And then in the end, it came down to like the final roll to escape. And because obviously it's a heist, you know, they're going into a protected fortress situation. And at a certain point, they've got an overwhelming number of enemies hunting them. But, you know, it's like, you have to hide. Oh, you failed to hide. I'm just going to invoke criticality. I'm going to try this. But of course, when you roll a critical fail, you can't. Right. So it's like you rolled a regular fail. Okay, yeah, it worked. Then when you roll a critical fail, suddenly stuff's up in the air. And it came down to that last roll where they had to succeed at activating a vehicle to escape the fortress they were in, like a rocket ship. And the characters didn't know how rocket ships worked. So it was like basically that thing, like last scene character goes in jamming the buttons, hoping something works. They had a criticality of 8, so they basically had to succeed. But if they rolled 8 or less, it was going to be a critical failure. And I was like, if you roll a critical failure, this thing explodes. If you take more time to figure things out, the guys are going to catch up to you, and you know they're going to be firing on you. And they roll critical hits on 30 to 20. What do you do? And the guys are like looking at one another. They tell the pilot, "Go for it, jam the buttons." And then the player rolls a natural 20.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like it's amazing. Like, yeah, you make it, you escape, you did it. But the tension was there because it's like you got all the way to the end. Do TPK or escape.
You're trading speed for future problem.
Risk. Yes, exactly. Which is how, you know, like an action movie kind of works. You're going in, go further. Yeah. And this was like I wanted to just try this mechanic. I was like, oh, we'll see how it goes. And in practice, it was amazing. And also, it was kind of fun because I made it so that an individual player could just invoke this, not the whole group. So, like, even in a fight, just an individual player was like, no, I want this blow to hit. I'm invoking it. I'm hitting the guy. And then there was suddenly the tension because, like, some of the PCs were like, no, don't do it. And one player was like, I'm doing it.
Now, that sounds like really, really cool.
It worked really well because we got through the whole module. I managed to get the tempo right, which I don't. I often mess up the tempo. I think I'm going to do a one shot, and it's like it becomes the sprawling 9-hour thing, right? Split up over 3 sessions. This time it was like it was 3 sessions. It was we ran a whole heist over Discord in 3 hours, starting with like an opening scene, getting to know everything, sort of a loose party scene, going through, talking to people, cracking saves, getting codes, breaking in, like knocking a guy out, dressing up as the soldiers, going through like the whole thing. I couldn't believe it. It was really good. And, probably 80% of that is down to the players, not me, but it was a nice experience.
You know what? That's the thing too, right? Like, and to go back to we were talking about how as GMs we can be so critical of ourselves. Role playing is it's a community thing, right? It's a group event.
Yeah.
If you had a bad experience, it's not the GM's fault necessarily. Now, it's one of those things where okay, one bad apple can spoil the whole barrel, but most of the time, the amount of fun if you're having more fun, so is everyone else in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, as long as you're not just being a dick about it, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you try to like lift up the other people, and it's a bit about like getting that vibe of like passing the ball around. It's
Right,
like,
right.
and like you do something, and it's like, what do you do with it? Passing it forward. And when you have players that also like sort of click with that and start doing it, I love that. I love that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I got a chance, and it doesn't happen that much in convention gaming, but, last year at a local convention, I ran a game, I don't know if you ever heard of it, it's from Grant Howe, it's called Havoc Brigade, and it's this crazy little one-shot thing where you all play orcs.
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
but I haven't played it.
it's basically intended, the way I bill it, especially for conventions, but he designed it specifically as a convention one-shot game.
Mhm.
It's the game where all those crazy ideas that you get that, "No, I don't wanna wreck the table because this is too silly," that's what this game wants you to do.
Mhm.
So I ran it at a convention, but I had a whole home group sign up as the table for the game.
Mhm.
So these were all people who are used to playing with each other, and when they realized, "Oh, wait, you want us to mess with each other and, like, we're big dumb orcs and can do stupid things to, like, kind of inconvenience," but they just cut loose, and, oh my god, did they have fun because it was like, "Oh, I know what'll bug you just a little bit," like, not bad, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then they start playing, and then, like, there's random items in this game, like the one character has these magic mushrooms, but that's all they're defined as. Well,
Mhm.
they go, "What do they do?" And I don't know, look at the guy across there, like, "What does his mushroom do?"
Yeah, yeah. That doing that when you just like can point to another player. What does his item do? That is a brilliant mechanic to use as a GM.
And when they realized that I was basically letting them kind of build it themselves and
Mhm.
encouraging them to, yeah, like the one I remember, they're doing this, they're trying to break a bunch of owl bears out of a zoo, right?
Yeah.
So they go to do this and something goes sideways. And so they're running away, and the one character dives over the wall into this pit of something in the zoo. And I look at the one player and I go, "What's in the pit he just dove into?" And for a second, this player got this panic look on their face of like, "Oh my God, I wasn't paying attention." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You just get to tell us what's in that enclosure." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah.
And so and just building on stuff like that, sounds in a lot of ways kind of like what you're trying to encourage people to do with a lot of your games, though,
Mm.
is that, throw it at this person, see what it is, and not
Yeah.
necessarily always in a comedic sense like that game kind of wants, but
Oh yeah, no. But it's like just for the surprise to get that interesting interaction. And like I think I also try to sort of encourage is like as the game master, again, sort of in your role as referee, you can retcon stuff. You can just say, okay, guys, that's not working. Dial back, restart, or like, or even like running things. Once I set up a plot, and like it was over convoluted, and like about 15 minutes into the session, I was just like, oh my god, guys, I screwed this up. Like the motivations of the characters are all over the place. The NPCs. This is help me. so we did like a 5-minute like dissection to figure out like the setup, that it was a setup that would make their characters interested. right? And then I was like, okay, the rest of it I can run. Like I've got the setup, I've got the place where you've got to like rescue the character and so on. But like, just let's get the motivations in place so that we can get you guys to the part of it that's like the fun dungeon part. And this part that I messed up. Sorry, guys. And like the players really loved that, but it was also then just going in that freedom. So like I can like they can like come to me and like, this is not working, and then we can retcon it, and I can go to them and it's like, yeah, let's fix it. There, it's not broken. It's a game, like, oh, something went sideways. It's not broken. They didn't see an encounter that I carefully crafted. It's okay. I can reuse it in another game. They missed the hook and the trail. It's okay. I can just pause things and I say, guys, I don't have that script prepared. It's gonna get goofy. You guys want to go there? Otherwise, we can figure out how to get back on script, like whichever you want. Not a big deal.
Yeah, well, but that goes to, like you were talking about it, viewing it as kind of a folk art, right? It's
Yeah,
and I've said before, I think art is not so much the finished product, but the creative process that creates it.
yeah,
Because
I
once
agree.
you have product, it doesn't take nearly the effort, skill, etc., to reproduce it. It's
Mm,
what was it someone said about sculpting? It's not the chipping away the stone that's the hard part. It's seeing the thing in the stone that you have to chip away to
mm.
get to. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
a lot of sense, but like,
No, but it's about the process. It's not about like the perfect finished piece. And like sometimes, Bob Ross is a good example. You want happy accidents.
right, right. Oh gosh. That is the perfect like role playing is happy accidents. It's so much
Yeah,
more fun with happy accidents than it is if you
yeah.
get it picture perfect. I mean, there is a thrill, I guess, to getting it picture perfect, but
Oh yeah, there is. But I remember when in one session I was playing this obnoxious rogue halfling that was just completely incompetent. It was like I rolled 3d6 down the line. The character had like all the stats were terrible except the character had 18 constitution. That was it. So at one point, like the character could do nothing. Like it was just so the skeleton is coming and the character picks up a bar of soap and throws it at the skeleton and like rolls a 20 and like knocks the skeleton's head off. I was like, there you go, happy accident.
mhm. And then therever after, your halfling thinks that is his magic bar of soap that will vanquish all
Yeah,
foes.
exactly. Yeah, the undead repelling bar of soap. But it's like you can actually turn it into that. After an item does a really good roll, as the game master, you can just say, "Yeah, okay, I guess why did it succeed? This shouldn't have happened. Why did? Maybe it actually was magic soap that repels undead, or holy soap." You know?
Right. But and I know as a player, it's those goofy moments or dramatic moments that you remember. You don't
Mm,
necessarily remember the time that you rolled really well all night long and killed everything. You remember
yeah,
when the unusual things happened and you created a story, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Eh,
Yeah,
and
it's that emergent story, and it is art. Like when it comes together, it's unexpected, but when it comes together,
yeah, those moments are just when someone invokes something that you just hadn't thought you would ever hear in a role playing context, you're just like,
mhm,
"Oh, wow, that's so cool."
yeah.
So,
And for me, it really like the tabletop, like the physicality of it, being in person. That the pandemic really drove that home to me. Like for me, that is like it's okay. Playing online is okay, but like playing in person with people, the social aspect of it, being around the table, having fun, rolling the dice falling off the table, having something to eat, having something to drink together. It's brilliant. I really like that. So it's something I would like to encourage more. It's a little bit hard to do that with like rules or writing. I tried, but then it bloated the rules. But I think it's really like it's one of those things that you can reduce down out of the game.
yeah, it well, but also, like, I don't know what it's like for you. I know, you obviously live halfway around the world from me, but, like, I find a lot of times for me, if I wanna play D&D, I can find a game real easy locally. If I wanna
Yeah,
play something else, let alone if I wanna play, obscure System X, even if I'm going to run it, sometimes it's hard for me to find players. If I play online, it's a whole lot easier to find people who want to
Yeah.
play, Gas Bashers or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Oh yeah, it's true. It's true. No, and that's why I don't want to knock it. It works. It's just it's nice being in person.
there is, and we actually talked about this on the last episode of the podcast a little bit. Steve and I did that. There's something, playing online is fine, but there is something different about physically getting together, sitting around a table. You can read so much more body language.
Yeah.
Hearing different people talking at the same time is different than online. It's just a different experience, and I think it is richer. Not to say that I'm giving up playing online anytime soon, but
Oh yeah, no, of course.
I would love to play more in person, but, life and all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah. No, of course. Yeah.
So, okay, we've got the bundle of holding.
We've covered the fall card. We've got the bundle of holding. There's Our Golden Age is on Backerkit. So we launched that. Yeah, part of the reason I'm rambling so much is because we launched that yesterday
as we record, I believe.
Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So 10 a.m. New York time, July the 31st. Like time gets wonky because I'm here in Korea. So for me, we launched at 11 p.m. So it went live. It funded in 48 minutes and 11 seconds, which was really nice. But like, it's like when you launch it at the same time, you're watching and you're nervous and you're stressed and you're still like preparing stuff because updates go out and you're sharing it on different social media. And, when goals are reached, you have to have like the graphics prepared and stuff like that. And of course, you'd want to imagine everything's going to be ready in advance. It's like, yeah, you're human. You have mostly ready, and then you find like a corner case and somebody asks you a question. You're like, dear God, we didn't think about that. But it was fine. So I was up till 2 a.m. and then the baby cried at 6 a.m. So it went live. We funded the last time I checked, it was like at 400%, which is excellent. We got all the achievements. So it's a whole box set. You get both of the books inside. There's like a hard copy map of the world, so it's designed to look a bit like a National Geographic map because it's going through this kind of slightly retro science fantasy vibe, but it looks modern-ish, but it's kind of weird. There's a GM screen, a referee screen that deals with the mechanics inside, because the core of it. So the UVG is like you go on a long, strange trip off into the far west. This one, it's much more about short trips from a local base. So it starts out like one little loose introductory adventure that introduces the travel mechanics and the kind of random events you get through that. The second one introduces the house, because the characters have like a house, like in the Tintin comics, where they have like the big house at some point. And then it's like the house kind of plays a role, because there's some mechanics for like what you've built in your house, the different rooms you have. You can then choose to take a benefit with you. So the house is both a sink for the treasure. Like you get treasure, hey, you've got a house to expand and also then to maintain. So, then it becomes this kind of treadmill where, like with the D&D kind of game, at a certain point, if you've got like 50,000 gold or something, you're kind of in trouble because you don't know what to spend with it. Here, I tried to fix that. And then there's like a third little adventure that provides an outline for like a campaign arc that you can use. So like a large conflict you can hang over everything. So while the players are going on these trips to different places, they have this kind of campaign that it can happen within. And then the core of it is of this Our Golden Age book is this the description of the different places. So it's like weird locations and the people and the factions that are there, and lots of hooks and what's happening, and things you can buy in different places that you can't get in others and stuff like that. Then there's some custom dice that got unlocked, which are very pretty. So the UVG had dice that were notoriously hard to read and with Roman numerals. So it was like really, it was we called them the eye burners, because they were like, you're like looking at it like, it was on purpose, but it was a little bit.
It was intentional, but after
intentional, but after a while,
bit like,
I mean, like my eyes. Well, no, it was great. It was a great idea. It's just my eyes are also old enough that sometimes a great idea, if it's late at night and the light's not really good, it's like, great idea, wrong circumstances. And then there are a couple of sets of cards for essentially generating random opponents or powers, but they also work as characters and items, so you can use them for that. There's a little travel journal, so it's modeled on like travel journals in our world, but it sort of provides you a framework for things your character can do. And then I had basically I had 250 pages for the Our Golden Age book, and I had too much stuff. So there was a list of the different kinds of humans you find in this setting. So basically a bestiary, but it's about people. So I don't think you can call it a bestiary if it's about people. So it's called the Pananthropy. So that's like a little printed zine, which is, like a little human manual that you get on the side. Like, oh, hey, hello, human. These are other humans. Because a conceit of the setting is that essentially all the definition of a human is just like a sentient creature with a body and a soul. That's it, and a mind. So you get all kinds of things, and you get like liches and vampires are included in there, and all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
it's like I saw. I think it was a clip of your artwork I saw maybe on a Facebook post or something. It looked like a octopus with a head, like a human head, and
Yeah.
then the arms ended in human hands again. It was kind of neat and weird and cool, and like your art style too is I don't know how I would define it, but it's unique and cool in its own. Like I don't know how else to
Thank you. That's
describe
very
it.
kind. It sort of developed organically.
Like it's recognizable.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's become recognizable. I didn't set out for it. I just tried to make cool stuff. I mostly taught myself, and it was a very roundabout way. I'm still not as good as I'd like to be, but lifelong process.
Well, I think that's that's life, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it is.
all right, so it's what's the name of the backer kit again? Golden
Our
Age?
golden age.
Our Golden
Yeah,
Age.
our golden ages. Yeah,
Okay. And the ultraviolet bundle on Bundle of Holding.
yeah. It did well. So like on Backerkit right now, at least, I think it's like
How
I
long is
think you
the
just
back
go the
how long
30
is
days.
30
So
days?
it's gonna last until nearly the end of August. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool, cool. All right. Well, I think all that being said, it's getting stupidly late in the night where I'm at, and I'm sure
My
you're
apologies.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm up till almost this hour most of the time anyway, so, let's kinda start wrapping things up here. We do a little thing, I told you about it a little bit before we started recording, we call Game of the Week, which is kind of just
Hmm.
a little fun shout out for titles that you'd like to see more people be aware of. So if you'd like, I can kind of give my Game of the Week first, and you can kinda get a feel for it there, and
Sounds good.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
okay. So my game of the week this week is going to be a game that I found on drive-through. Now I have not played it, but it sounds cool, and I kind of want to take it apart because it's actually a mini skirmish game. And I'll throw a link up in our green room, which is the channel right above the one that we're in, if you want to look at it. It's a game called Death Ship One. It's actually from the guy who designed Frostgrave and Stargrave and some other stuff, and it lists itself as a mini skirmish game, but it sounds like you're just supposed to play with whatever minis you have. So what this game is essentially you're on a ship and there's a 5-room gauntlet you have to get through. And it sounds like all these rooms are like randomly generated by the game. There'd be traps, monsters, automated weapons, and it again, the way the listing, it sounds like it's randomly generated. So even though it's a miniatures game, I think you could probably take this apart really quickly and make it into a neat role-playing game concept. It's designed as a solo or co-op miniature game of science fiction survival. You choose a squad of soldiers from any time period or even the future and see if they can survive the horrors of the death ship. PDF will set you back like $12.50 on drive-through. To me, it just sounds like a neat exercise, and if you can play it solo, then what's to say you can't have all kinds of fun anyway? Like I said, I think it would be kind of a neat thing to take apart and reuse the concept of in an RPG context, maybe even.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I really like skirmish games like that in theory, in practice, I live in an apartment. I don't have space for them. I don't have space for figures and minis. So when I get the chance to play with somebody who does, I always enjoy it.
Yeah, well, like I said, to me, this like, it says it's designed to play fast with a minimum of
Mm,
rules and terrain. I like it more as a concept to take apart as like some sort of weird gauntlet to use in a role playing game.
mm. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, could be cool.
So that's my pick. Do you have anything you've come across
I
recently?
do. I do. It's actually a Kickstarter that is going live today. It's
Uh-huh.
called The Painted Wasteland, and it's a hex scroll based around the art of an artist that I've been following for a couple of years called Tim Molloy, Molloy, who posts really beautiful art, beautiful, weird, creepy art, and fiction stuff, and sometimes also does really sort of interesting, intricate AI generated stuff, which I know put some people off, but this guy does really beautiful art. And they're making an old school essentials based hex scroll. It's supposed to launch on Kickstarter today, and I'm kind of curious about it, just based on the wild art and the stories that the artist made. So it's being made by oh Willard, I want to say, is designing the game. So it's a collaboration,
Okay.
and yeah, by Christopher Willett. By Christopher Willett. Christopher Willett is writing it.
Okay.
Willett. And so that looks nice and interesting to me. So that's my recommendation.
All right, cool. Cool. Oh, also, before I forget, if people are interested in finding out more about what you do, or, we briefly chatted about the curse of social media before we started
Mhm.
recording actively, but, where can people look up more about what you do and kind of follow you and see what you've got going on?
Mm.
And
Yeah. So for the UVG, there is a Facebook group, a fan Facebook group that they can join. It's called just the Ultraviolet Grasslands. Otherwise, for my own pages, they can search for Wizard Thief Fighter, all one word, multi-class. The worst multi-class in second edition. You try to do that, and then you're like third level and can do nothing. So basically, you search for that, and I've got a Patreon. I've got a blog on that name, and I'm also quite active posting art on Instagram on that name. I'm not that active on Twitter or Blue Sky because and sometimes I pop in on the OSR subreddit.
okay, cool, cool. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to come talk with us. It's been a fun conversation. I really enjoy a lot of kind of your approach to things, and I'm definitely going to have to check out some of your stuff because it sounds like it fits the way I like to do things really well.
Well, thank you, Steve. I enjoyed myself too.
Oh, I'm glad. It's always good when the guest has a good time as well. With that being said, anything else you want to shout out, or real quick, or anything like that before we?
Small apology to all your listeners for rambling on so long.
They're
I'm
used to
sorry, I
us.
should have kept it more concise.
Look, okay, one of the running jokes is that the other Steve and I share an attention span. So, rambling and kind of rabbit holing is kind of what we do. They've come to expect it, so no apology necessary there. But, I again, thank you very much for taking the time, and, if you have something else cool coming up, don't be afraid to reach out and let us know, and we'd love to have you back and just kind of shoot the breeze some more because it's been a fun conversation, at least from my side of things.
I'd love to, though. Honestly, it's gonna take a while because now with this campaign, I think I'm busy for the next year, getting
Well,
everything done on time.
you can take another 65-page book and write it to 200 and some pages and then have to cut it back again.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. It's the optimal method of writing. Write 300 pages and then cut it down to 30. That's the way to go every single time.
Well, again, thank you so much, Luca. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And with that, we want to remind everyone out there listening, be kind to each other. You can check us out. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, whatever. All the links are in the show notes. got a Discord server where you can come chatter at us, talk about gaming stuff, whatever stuff. But yeah, with all that said, be kind to each other, get out there and play some RPGs.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast, on Discord at Me and Steve RPGs, and as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.